Alright, g'day. Welcome back to the Garage Technicians channel, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Lude. So I know in the last episode I said that I was going to start this one by pulling the car out and then getting it prepped, etc. But I've decided since then that I would rather get this sorted first, get the front bumper sorted, and then that way, once that's all done, I can get that out of here. We'll have a bit more open space to lay stuff out if I want to pull things off. I have installed the horns that we refinished, so I'll overlay some footage of that. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be the plan for today. I'm going to set up out the front, so you'll see my little impromptu spray booth setup. I'll show you that now, but in between working on that, I'll also be working on this piece here, which goes across the top of the rocker cover. So need to refinish that and make that look nice. So while that dries, I'll work on that and we'll bounce back and forth. But yeah, let's get that spray booth set up. Yeah. Okay, so this is the gazebo setup, spray booth. It's nothing fancy, but it's what I could achieve with what I have. So I'm gonna pull that bumper out here now and we'll get started on that. I've also grabbed the hose, and that's for two reasons. One, every time I spray, I'll wet the driveway down a little bit just so that any like overspray or anything like that that lands on the driveway, I can wash off. And I've also filled up a bucket with some soapy water so that I can give this a quick wash before we assess whether or not I'm gonna need to fix anything up or anything else before we spray it. I think it should be good to go, but we'll give it a rinse off, and then I'll blow it off as well to try and help it dry. And then while it's drying, we'll have a look at that other piece and keep cracking on. Okay, bumper's been washed off and tidied up, and honestly, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna let it dry off for a little while longer just to figure out for sure if anything needs to be fixed up, but I think it should be all right. But while I wait for that to dry off, we are gonna get cracking on this bad boy. Okay, so spark plug cover. This thing has clearly been through it. I did respray it once when I was younger, but at the moment I'm just trying to sand it up, get it clean, get it smooth, and then get it to a point where we can spray it. I reckon once this has been sanded, and I'll wipe it down with a bit of isopropyl alcohol wax and grease remover, and then while that's drying off, I'll go out there and assess that, might give that a wipe down. Alrighty, so just finished off with this. So I sanded it up with 180, then 240, then 320. Is it perfect? No. Is it good enough? No. But you know what? It'll probably be fine. It'll be fine. I'm going to prime it up soon. I've just given it a wipe down with some wax and grease remover. And while I was doing that, I also gave the bumper a wipe down. So that's looking nice and clean. So I'm going to let them dry off a little bit, air off. I'm also going to set up these saddles things so that I can give this a spray, and then we'll take a closer look at the bumper and see what kind of shape that thing's in. Okay, so I've pulled everything out here. Now I'm going to just start hosing down the driveway just so that I can spray without it sticking. And then I'll get the primer. I also use my blower just to blow off any like loose stuff that's on it. And then I'll chuck on a mask, which I always do. And then we'll get into spraying. I've also just chucked a towel over the bike to try and help protect it from any overspray. I'm not too worried about the car because it's getting painted, so let's do it. Okay, that's first coat of primer on those two done. I just use one of these little like little LED ones just to help me see kind of where I've sprayed already, so I don't go too crazy in too many spots. I'll give that 5 minutes to kind of flash off, and then I'll do another coat. I'll probably end up doing 2 or 3 coats. I'm not sure. We'll see how we go after the second coat and have a look at it. I'd rather have more and sand it back a bit than not have enough and it be rubbish. So let that flash off a couple minutes, and then yep, we'll do another coat and happy days. Okay, 2 coats of paint later, and this thing is done. I'm very pleased with how this came up. So that's 3 coats of paint total. And also on this, I'm going to bring this one in and wet sand it just to get it really nice before it's all finished off. Make sure that there's nothing that I missed. This one I'm going to leave out here and wet sand it out here because I'm going to chuck a coat of silver on it so it matches the heat shield on the exhaust manifold. Once I've put that silver on it, I'll bring it in and let it dry overnight so that I can put a nice clear coat on it tomorrow. Unfortunately on the bumper I did have a bit of an issue where the spray can spat a little bit. Unfortunately that's kind of just one of the consequences of using spray cans, is that sometimes you're kind of at the mercy of the quality of the valve or the head, so nothing I can do there, but I don't think it's too bad and I'll be able to wet sand it out when I bring it in, so yeah, we'll jump to that. Alrighty, so bumper is in now. After I brought it in, I did spot there were a few little spots that I'd missed, so I just touched those up. And I think you'll be able to see a bit more clearly here as well my my error. There it is. You know, not the biggest deal in the world. I can sand it out, I will sand it out, but, you know, still not ideal. But is what it is. I've touched up, there was a few sections that I missed, like I said, so touched that up, letting that dry, and then I've just finished wet sanding this off as well. So I'm very pleased with how this has come up. It's all nice and smooth. So I'm going to let this dry off a little bit more. I might use my heat gun to help me with that, and then once it's dry, I'll take it back out there and we'll hit it with some silver and then let it dry overnight and we'll put some clear on it. All right. Okay, so spark plug cover has been wax and grease removed and I've put it out there ready to be sprayed, and we're going to chuck some silver on it, some of this. Now I have used this paint before and I know that this nozzle likes to spit it out really fast, and I also know that it likes to run, so I'm going to do a lot of really light coats instead of, you know, a couple of heavier ones. I'll show you where I've got it set up around like this. Now I'm going to just spray this as it is and I'm going to hold my breath. You should wear a mask because this is, I should put a mask on, but I'm not going to because I can't be bothered, and it's only a tiny piece. It's going to take me 2 seconds. So yeah, that's going to finish flashing off and then I'll spray it down. Okay, so the third coat is down, and usually about now is where I would stop, but unfortunately because I'm not in a spray booth, I'm getting a lot of little bits of crap stuck in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna put one more coat on it just so it's like extra thick. It'll give me a bit more space to kind of sand it down and smooth it out again. So I'm gonna put another coat on that, then I'll let it dry off completely, and I'll actually probably let it dry overnight. Then I'll sand it in the morning and put a clear coat on it. And the thing with that, I want to wait until tomorrow before I sand it and clear coat it, because I have had it happen in the past where I put the clear coat on a little bit too soon and the base color is still off gassing, so it ends up giving these little like bubbles coming through the clear coat and it looks terrible. So completely want to avoid that. I'm just going to let it dry overnight and then sand it and clear it in the morning. Yeah. Alrighty, so this has had its 4th coat and I've brought it in. Now I'm going to get started on wet sanding this bad boy. So I'm going to chuck this on the tripod and we'll get into that. So wet sanding, I've got a bucket of water here. This is the soapy, a little bit of soapy water, not too much soap, but just a little bit, and then a bit of 800 grit sandpaper. And the majority of this process, honestly, is just going by feel. I like to have a rag as well, a rag handy. Dusty, preferably not one that's filthy like that. Let's get a new one. Yeah, the big rigs. Oh, 2 rags. Ditch one of them. So I tend to just sandpaper in one hand, rag in the other. Just a little bit of water, not too much, but just enough to kind of cover the majority of the surface. And then just gently, I mean really gently, like basically no pressure. And I'm mostly kind of just going by feel. Just sort of, if I feel spots that are particularly rough or something in that primer coat. And honestly, you can feel it. You can feel the resistance in the sandpaper. So yeah, I'm gonna do this for probably the next hour. and then once I've got it all feeling nice and pretty and smooth, then I'll bring you back to show you. Alrighty, so just finished with the wet sanding and I've pulled it out and given it a quick hose off so you can have a look and have a squeeze of that. Oh, very nice. Very, very pleased with how this came up. Looks great. Really, really pleased with that. So I'm gonna let it dry off for a little while longer and then I'll bring it in. But yeah, that'll pretty much be today. And then tomorrow we'll get cracking on putting that clear coat on and wrap it up. So yeah, see you tomorrow. All right, and we are back with day 2 and I'll show you where everything's at. This bumper has come up beautifully now that everything's dried off, and then also this right here, and it's looking quite nice. So now that it's all dried and hardened, I'll set up, give it a nice wet sand, get it nice and smooth, nothing too crazy, just light, with some 800 grit sandpaper, and then we'll chuck a few light coats of clear on it. Okay, so in the process of wet sanding this, I've discovered 2 things. This silver does not like to be wet sanded post spray because it has like a surface sheen, I think, or it might have like a bit of clear pre-mixed into it, I'm not sure, but it definitely has a sheen that once you wet sand, it gets rid of that sheen, so I'm definitely gonna have to respray that silver. And then the other thing that I've come to realize is that on the front of it, in between the little spokes of the H, there are some gouges just from sanding going a little bit too hard. So I'm gonna try and sand those out. They don't feel too deep, so I'm thinking I can probably just really carefully try to sand them flat. We'll sand that up, but... All right, so it's another day, and I've resprayed the silver on this, and I'll give you a look at that real quickly now before I move out to clear coat, but it's looking quite good. I'm pleased with it. Again, it's still not perfect, unfortunately, but it's a lot better and it's good enough for me, honestly, and that's what matters. The clear coat I'm gonna spray is this guy here, the Color Spec Crystal Clear. There we go. I love this stuff. I've used it heaps, but similar. It's very easy to spray on too thick, so good to go slow. Gonna do lots of really light coats, but it gives a really awesome crystal clear, but it also gives you the ability to wet sand and polish, which I may do. So we'll see how we go, but I'll get into spraying that clear coat now and we'll have a look, see how it comes up. And this thing has been cleared and dried. You can see the nice shine coming off of it. I'm very pleased with that. So we'll set this up, get it installed. All right, so I have all the necessary bits and pieces, and that is gonna go right there. Now, I do have all the little bits and pieces of hardware here, and they've all been gouged, so they're nice and pretty. So we'll put these in finger tight first. Move this hose out of the way because it's a bit in the way. So we'll just tighten her down. Gentle twist, half a ugger, no dugger. Screw that down. Last one. Alrighty, so that's that installed. Looking good. I'm quite happy with that. So that wraps up this one, and then in the next video we're going to be, putting the battery in, pull the car out and get it sanded up. So yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Checking in for the next one. Thanks guys.